wish you'd understand. I just wish that God had a better plan. I'm so confused. I need a redo. Inside of me that's begging and begging and pleading. I just wanna feel free. I just wanna feel lovely. I'm surrounded by love that's in pain. Can I wipe your tears away? Please don't hurt for me. I hate that it's for me. It's for me.
Hi, welcome back to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. Thank you to the beautiful Amber K. That was Warrior number 3. I hate that it's for me doing the introduction into the podcast. My name is Brian. I am the MS Michigan Man 64. I have had MS for the last 28 years, and I talk about my journey as well as the journey of other chronic disease warriors all over the world, just to try to help people understand what it's like going through that diagnosis, no matter what age they are, how it affects our family, how it affects our mental health, how it affects our careers. Today, I am sitting down with an MSer that I recorded with back when I was, before I started with Hale. I recorded with Maria back in episode 3. And she is a very close friend of mine. I actually met Maria back in 2012 when she was just going through her diagnosis. I coached her son, Steven. He was a freshman in high school, and that's how our relationship started. I asked her to come back on just to share her journey because I love her story. Her son is actually in his residency now to be a neurologist. And she actually, on her path, she actually chose not to do a DMT. So I asked her to come back on just to talk about her journey. Please welcome to the podcast, Maria. How you doing today, Maria?
Hi, Brian. I'm doing kind of the same, which I think is a success.
Absolutely, Maria. Absolutely. I know when I first met you, Maria, back in 2012, you were really scared. I had already had about 15, 16 years in with my MS, and you were just going through your diagnosis, and you didn't really understand the multiple sclerosis yet. And can you kind of just take us through back when in 2012, when you were told that you had MS, what was going on with your body that, threw those red flags up that you needed to go see a doctor, and how they ended up telling you that you had MS?
Well, I wasn't quite sure what my problem was. When the kids were going through all of their pre-high school athletics, I used to walk around the track with all the ladies that were stuck there watching their sons play as well. And I kept tripping and falling. So I stopped walking with them and I started to try and figure out why. And the first place I went was to an orthopedic doctor to find out why my foot is why I'm tripping over it. And he told me that there was nothing wrong with my foot. He x-rayed it. And then it took me an additional 10 years to convince enough people to believe me that there was something wrong. And it turned out that I looked up a bunch of well, I got to know more about MS and other diseases trying to figure out what I had.
Mm-hmm.
When I hit MS, I checked almost every box. So I took that to my general practitioner, and he believed me. And immediately we went for an MRI and a CAT scan, and my brain was lit up like a Christmas tree. So that's how I found out I had MS. It took me 12 years to do it, but I did it.
That's unbelievable that it took you that long. I know I record with people all the time that they're very similar. It takes years to get that diagnosis. And So let me ask you this, because I know that this is the most interesting part of our conversation when we had it back when we recorded the first time, is that when you were told that you had MS, you were given the option to go on a DMT, and you right off the rip, you decided, hey, I'm going to put the brakes on that. I want to do my research, and I'm going to make my decision. Kind of I want you to talk about your decision to not go on your DMT, Maria.
Well, since I have primary progressive, the only DMT that was available for that at the time was Ocrevus, which would require me to take anti-rejection drugs prior to, getting the IV with whatever Ocrevus has in it. And I asked a lot of questions of the doctors that were recommending it, and basically there was no guarantee at all that it would make any difference for me because it's generally for relapsing remitting, which it might work great for, keeping another attack from coming. But since my attack is constant, I had no guarantees. So in my mind, to take anti-rejection drugs for something that might not make any difference at all seemed insane to
Yeah,
me. I, I couldn't justify doing that to my body
I understand
to,
that. I understand that. And that is like, I know back when I got diagnosed, I was diagnosed relapse remit back in 1997, and there were 3 DMTs even out on the market. And it was, I was scared though, and when that doctor said, hey, we're going to put you on this, and I didn't even really have the time to even process it because I just wanted this disease to, be stopped. And I went on my DMT. And, fast forward 28 years, I'm still upright and mobile. And is it the DMT that it kept me upright? I don't know. I can't answer that. I like to think, yeah, maybe it's a combination of that, but I think it's a combination of like the attitude that I took, when I got diagnosed with 27, when I was 27 years old, and I just didn't shut down. I'm like, okay, well, I got MS and I'm going to do what the doctor told me. I'm going to go on this DMT, but I'm also going to go and get as exercise because I want to keep my mobility. And I don't know what the right way that's kept me where I'm at today, but I mean, it's a choice and you got to figure that out and you got to figure it out quick sometimes. And I just think it's awesome that you just sat there and said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. And because I know that's a hard choice. I couldn't make that choice. I sat there and said, you know what, all right, game on, let's do the DMTs. But I mean, if I would have had that choice to do all over again, I don't know how I would have done it but I don't know the answer. Are the DMTs doing what they're supposed to be doing? They might be. I don't know. But I know people fail on them all the time too, and they're still getting worse. So, I mean, what's the answer? I don't know. But you got to figure it out and you got to personalize it. And that's what you did, Maria.
well, it's really difficult, especially for newly diagnosed, to put your desperation aside and make a logical decision for yourself. We were all desperate not to have MS. As soon as we got our diagnosis, it's like, how can we get rid of this? Um, and I think disease modifying therapies give you a nice little package wrapped with a bow. But if you go through the process logically, like for me, it was kind of ridiculously stupid and just a big guess and putting my body, probably at risk because I'm sure that had side effects and it probably wasn't going to help me very much because I was just one big relapse.
Yeah, right.
So luckily logic won and desperation didn't. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who were more desperate and just didn't think through some things.
Yeah, I understand that. So let me ask you this. I know, like when we met, Maria, you were using a cane, you were using a walker. I think I even seen you in a wheelchair a few times. Now, fast forward 13 years, 14 years of where it's been, and I know that you're walking around really, really well now. I mean, you don't use mobility aids that much, and I know it hasn't always been that way. So just I want to know the path that you took with no DMT. Because I know you do a lot. You dove into the diet part of it, and you changed diet, and you found a lot of benefits out of that. And I want to talk about that part of it. You said no to the DMT. You've held firm on that your whole diagnosis, and you're doing really, really well. So just kind of like talk about how you said no to the DMT, and you just started to learn about the diet and how that affects your body.
Well, when you get diagnosed with MS, they give you this big binder of things that you should know, you shouldn't know, you should do, you shouldn't do. And I read through it and, honestly, it just made you feel sort of worse about what you have because it let you know what's coming. And it's a very depressing disease when you look into all the things that may or may not happen to you later on. But I had my biggest issues was my bowel issues, and I thought it was part of MS. And I started to read quite a bit about diets, and I understood that paleo and keto are very good for neurological disorders.
Hmm.
So I figured it would kill two birds with one stone. Maybe it'll help the MS, maybe it'll help, the bowels. And it turned out that the issue was completely unrelated. So, again, you're like, well, what is MS and what isn't MS? I was blaming everything that was wrong with me on MS,
Hmm.
and the doctors didn't sort them out for me either. Everything, new got thrown into, oh, that's MS. Oh, that's MS. And it wasn't. It turned out that um, just studying about my own disease and looking into things myself and just through, hearsay or an article I'd read, I'd go down the rabbit hole. And um, once I started to change my diet, my, bowel issues started to clear up. But not only that, I got 50% of my hearing back. I was losing my hearing. And with the change in diet, my hearing came back. My skin, I had such bad eczema. I had those silver elbows. I don't even know what's that.
Yeah.
Psoriasis.
Yeah.
Um, it all cleared up. My feet used to be so dry, they would crack and bleed, and I'd leave like blood marks all over the floor. I didn't even know. I didn't feel it. Um, all of that cleared up. So I think a lot of the good changes that I've gone through with regards to MS have been dietetic. And I'm pretty sure that if you can bring down your inflammation by staying away from things that your body is having a reaction to, you can do so much to help yourself. Um,
Hmm.
it changed my life, Brian.
Yeah. I know. I witnessed it, Maria. I mean, like I said, I met you in 2012. I seen the disease, take you out when you were like new in it, and then you just started. And through our conversation, you were telling me, hey, I'm changing this. Do you do this? And I'm not big on diet. I've always been like, hey, I put whatever in my mouth that goes in, and as long as it don't make me feel like shit, I keep on going. But I mean, you actually made that conscious decision, like, hey, this isn't going to be good for me. And you like made a decision to go gluten free, and how that changed, just the way you felt. And then the way you found the different tools to help your mobility. I know we went to the same chiropractor for a while, and you still use that. And now you're walking around and you just use a cane sometimes. And it's just amazing that there's no one right way to go down this path. Whether you use the DMT or you go natural, you just got to customize it and make it fit for you.
Well, here's the thing is chiropractors are, say, by most doctors, just considered um, quacks.
Right. Right.
And I did not realize that there's even different disciplines within the chiropractic community.
Yeah.
Like the chiropractor I go to, he he follows something called the Gonstead method.
Right.
And basically that's a clinic in Florida where they teach you how to treat diseases through manipulation of your back, of your bones. And it really works.
Mhm.
I was I was a hair's breadth away from a wheelchair. I segued from a cane to the rollator to we were sometimes using a wheelchair to a point where I could not support my own torso. My hamstrings would just be in such pain holding up the top part of my body.
Yeah.
I would just flop from wall to table to piece of furniture, anything to help me hold up my body. And that's when I found the chiropractor. Again, Gonstead method, nothing else,
Mhm.
because they do have an MS protocol. And when I first started going to him, he would ask me what hurt on my back. He would go down the vertebrae, and I felt nothing. I didn't feel him touching my back.
Mhm.
Um, Fast forward, I've been going to him for at least 2 years now, and I'm walking mostly without a cane.
Yeah.
I get tired like all MS people, and I do have to grab somebody's arm once in a while at the end of the day. But for the most part, I can do things without a walker, without a cane. Um, I can drive myself places. I can go shopping all by myself now.
I know.
I know it doesn't sound like much.
No, that's huge, man. And those are huge victories, and I know that I talk to people all the time, and it's just such a customized path and you just got to figure it out. And I just love the way you're doing it. And the fact that your son is in his residency right now to be a neurologist, I think that's just a badass part of this whole story because he's the guy that's going to be actually treating people that are coming into his office that are going through their symptoms and diagnosing them with MS. And he's going to be doing the suggestions, whether they're going to go on a DMT or not. And, his mom is doing it the natural way and, doing it through diet and doing it through supplements. And just talk a little bit about how it is having a future neurologist who's in his residency and, the conversations that you guys have on how you're dealing with your disease, Maria, because I think it's an awesome, awesome part of your journey.
Well, it's funny because, I'm waiting for our two worlds to meet. He, I'm mom, so I'm always right no matter what. But, he has this pesky medical degree that says he's right. So I, what we try to do is I try to find some middle ground. Like he doesn't understand why I'm taking vitamins and supplements and things like that because, clearly they don't work. But here I am a little better and he can't explain it.
Hmm.
It's hard for him to accept, and everything he's learned along the way tells him I'm dead wrong. But here I've cleared up several issues. I don't know how he explains it to his friends. Probably he says my mom's insane.
Probably.
But
Yeah.
but all he has under his belt is just the things he's been told by his teachers, by his professors, and he really hasn't come across a whole lot of people like you, like the people you talk to, who figured out a different way, maybe even a better way.
Right.
So I think eventually my big hope is that our two worlds will come together and they'll just accept some of the simple fixes that we use and help others with them instead of keeping others from trying them. Like I tell him I consider pharmaceuticals and medicine and DMTs at a 10. So if I start at a 1, I'm starting with a vitamin D, maybe eating, a little better, making sure I get some exercise, some daily sun, I go outside. Those aren't things doctors consider. They know you show up at their office. They know you have an issue. Their main objective is to help you with that issue. But what people don't consider is maybe there were some things they could do to help themselves before they reached out to a doctor.
Hmm.
And that's sort of what I'm trying to do because a doctor will give you a pill. If you ask them, if you're in pain and you go to their office, their immediate cure for you is some sort of way to manage your pain
Right.
that they have access to. But that doesn't mean that you can't do some meditation. That doesn't mean that you can't start exercising on the floor if you don't have balance.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways to get yourself better without the need for, 8, 9, 10 different medications.
Right. Right.
But because you walked into that doctor's office looking for help, that is the help they can give. So, you know, I don't fault him for not having a breadth of knowledge. He hasn't talked to a lot of people like me and you and most of the people you've talked to. All he knows is right now kind of what medications will fix what problem.
Or at least slow it down or try to help it. And yeah, he's learning all. I know we talked about this earlier. I mean, he's a smart guy. I mean, all doctors are very intelligent. I will never take that away from any doctor. Anybody that can learn all that information and be able to get tested on it and to learn it is, I bow to them. But the actual hands-on, like actually talking to the patient and listening to them, and they don't have a lot of time to listen to us sometimes. Sometimes, they're held back by the system. They're only given 15 minutes to listen to a patient. And how much can you really tell somebody in 15 minutes, And then they right away, okay, here, try this pill, try this pill. And I know we had that conversation about that, and hopefully your son Stephen is going to be one of those doctors that is going to be listening to the patients instead of just like, okay, here's a pill, here's a pill. Because I think that's the breakdown a lot with doctors is that they just don't listen to us. They think that they're the experts because they have that title, PhD, but, they don't listen to the people that actually have the disease and, to try to help us manage it a little bit better.
Well, that's where I think he is. Oh, lucky yet unlucky. Like, he was born with a level 2 brain hemorrhage. He was born in my 26th week of pregnancy. He was a preemie. Um, he under he knows how hard it is to get past something like this. He was like the little boy who wouldn't quit. It was harder for him to do everything, just like it is for us,
Mm-hmm.
but he did it anyway. He found a way around it. We always found workarounds. And his grandfather passed away last week with Parkinson's. His grandmother had Alzheimer's. I have MF. Um, so I think he's going in with a lived experience that is so much bigger than all of the neurologists around him. He lived it. He understands it.
Yeah.
It just hasn't sunk in just yet how many problems he had that I could have gotten a pill for,
Yeah.
a little Ritalin or something
Right.
that we didn't do. W- We found so many workarounds for him. And I know that's going to enter his mind at some point. Just not quite yet while he's still in the learning phase,
Right.
but I have hope. He's a good man with a good heart. I just have to, beat some sense into him once in a while.
Yeah, you're a mom. You got to do that. I know when I met Steven back when he was a freshman in high school and I was getting to know him. And, I asked him back then, I'm like, hey, Steven, well, what do you want to be when you grow up, go to college and all that? And he told me right then, he's like, I want to be a doctor and I want to be a neurologist. I mean, you can tell that he already had that passion and that drive. I didn't realize that he had all the medical issues that he had himself, but I knew that his mom had just gotten diagnosed with MS, and I thought that was his motivation for it. But yeah, I mean, Stephen I think he's going to be an incredible neurologist. I'm hoping that he practices up around me so I can switch to him when he gets done with his residency. It's just an awesome story how you got a mom that's going through this disease and you got a son that's going to be a neurologist and how they're just like talking to each other and you're trying to teach him how to be a neurologist and how to manage a patient. I just think it's an awesome part of the story, Maria.
Well, I mean, I think we're past the really frustrating phase where, I'm telling him what I don't like about what he does, and he's telling me what he doesn't like about what I do. So, but I think we're over that. And he does understand that, experience is invaluable.
Yep.
And what you learn on paper is sometimes not so practical.
Yep. Absolutely.
Even my general practitioner, I talked to him about, my son being a doctor, and he tells me he's going to be very shocked to learn at the things that he was taught that just aren't so.
Yeah, and I think that's just that. I think that everybody goes through that in life, whatever you're going to be in life. You're taught the way things are supposed to happen in the perfect world, but you find out real quick that it doesn't happen that way, and the best way to learn is just through your experience, and hopefully, you learn and you absorb it, and you don't, if you make a mistake, then you don't make that mistake again. Because you're going to have days where you're gonna have good days. You have a good day with your MS, and you're going to have days where you have bad days, but you can't quit, and you just got to keep on fighting. And I know that's the way Steven is. That's the way you are. It's a constant mind game that you just got to figure out. It's a puzzle that you got to put the pieces together and figure out how you're going to make it to the next day.
I think a lot of it too is that we get generalized about a lot. Like, you have MS, you're in this box. You have Alzheimer's, you're in this box.
Hmm.
And each of those boxes makes you think that you're the same as everybody else
Right?
that has that same disease, but we're not. We're all really different. And, because of that, I personally feel that all of our solutions are different. We can't just be given I can't get the same medication as you're getting and get the same results.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it seems like until we start being treated like individuals as opposed to MS patients, um, we're never really gonna get our answers or get better because everyone's different. If we One of There was one doctor I talked to that told me, he goes, "Look at you. Do you look like anybody else from the outside?" I'm like, "No." She goes, "What makes you think you're the same as everybody else on the inside then?" Like,
Right.
oh my gosh,
Yeah, something that's simple, but it makes that much sense. I mean, nobody's the same in our diseases. No two MS patients are the same either. I mean, some people like it affects more of their eyes, it affects more of their voice, it affects more of their hearing, it affects more of their limbs. And some people it affects cognitive. They struggle with that cognitive, but we're all different, but we're all treated the same. It seems like, and that's I think that's a lot of very frustrating part of our battling this disease is that we're just treated it's like a straight line, and it's not, man. There's so many different branches off that straight line, and doctors just don't seem to want to like understand that, I guess. I mean, that's the way it makes us feel.
Well, I know for my family doctor, I'm talking about my son. It's frustrating for them as well because the patient knows what they're trying to say to the doctor. If something's not working out, if a medication isn't doing what it's supposed to for that person,
Hmm.
they there's like sort of a disconnect where the patient is like, "Hey, this doesn't work," and the doctor's like, "Well, this is all we have," as opposed to, "Hey, maybe you could try, a little more vitamin B. That might make a difference.
Yeah.
Have Let's look at your diet. Let's see what you're eating. Maybe that's causing inflammation, making things worse." But again, I know my son would love to do that, but can you get that accomplished in 15 minutes? So
Right.
it's sort of like a catch-22.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I
That
know. I know. We talked about that. I mean, they got to do all this in 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and they're getting pushed by the system that they work in. And that's part of the problem too. I just think there's a lot of broken parts to the medical system. All the way from the insurance, all the way to the people that are running the hospitals, to the physicians, because there's doctors that just don't want to listen. But I think that talking about it more and more is just part of the solution, because there's a lot of people that don't understand that you have a choice, with your DMT and not a DMT, and I just think talking about it is a huge tool for the mental part of this journey, because I know the mental part for me has always been the hardest part. Just, trying to figure out how I'm going to manage my disease when it throws this roadblock up in front of me. How am I going to get around it? How am I going to maneuver it? And it's just the more we talk about it, I think the more we can learn about this disease from the physician's standpoint as well as from the patient's standpoint.
Oh, absolutely, Brian. The best way to fight MS is to become an expert in MS. If you can understand what the doctor's telling you, like technically, you can ask the right questions. And having a list of questions when you go to the doctor is really good as well,
Hmm.
because their time is limited. But usually I figure out what I wanted to ask him when I'm getting in my car. So,
Right. Right.
a- and they don't really give you enough time to think about it. But I just know from my own son, he he desperately wants to help people.
Yeah.
Um, and right now, the only information has is the information he's been given from the medical community.
Right.
It's going to take him probably decades to catch up to what we're talking about now.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. And hopefully, I know that we talked about this a little bit, but I want to get it on a recording. Hopefully, in the future, I want to get both of you guys on at the same time, and we could talk mother and son, doctor and patient, and we can do an episode about that, Maria. Because like I said, I think you have such a unique, um, um, I guess, kind of like where you're at in life. Like you're a chronic disease warrior, you're an MS patient, and you got a son that is going through his residency. It's unique. I mean, I've never talked to anybody. I've talked to people that have this disease that are actual doctors. They're actually practicing medicine, but I haven't had the connection yet of mom and a doctor or a dad and a doctor. And I think it's really, really cool. I want to have both of you guys on in the future.
Oh, that'll be a fun episode.
Absolutely. Absolutely it will. Maria, you're definitely gonna do another episode with me. But if you want to tell anybody that is in like a similar situation as you, let's just say they're newly getting diagnosed and they're trying to figure this out of whether or not to do the DMT, whether or not to try to attack this thing through diet or through nutrition, through supplements. What would you say to them? When they got doctors telling them one thing, but they're not sure. What would you say to them?
Well, here's what I'd say. If I had it to do over again from the get-go, um, I would definitely do a lot more research on my own first. Um, I was I was given like 8 different prescriptions, like just walking into the door of the Mellon Center.
Yeah.
And it's really overwhelming
Yeah.
is what it is. Like you get all these prescriptions, you get this booklet, they're like throwing stuff at you, and it's sort of like, you know, at your wedding. I don't remember my wedding. So much happened, and I had to watch the video to see what it actually went on
Right.
because it was just a blur. It's the same way when you first get diagnosed. These doctors are telling you what you have, and you're like, "Oh my God, it's bad."
Right.
And you're getting all these drugs. You've got this pamphlet that's just going to tell you, things that you don't even want to know yet about what might happen to you, and you're sort of powerless. And what I recommend is you take that power back and you do your own research. Like it took me a good 10 years to find out like intermittent fasting could really help me out. And it has in many, many ways. Um, I didn't know that I take mushrooms for my brain. I didn't know that I could do that. They're not psychedelics. It's just a mushroom blend
Right.
that has
Right.
a lot of the brain mushrooms incorporated into it.
Yeah.
I I I didn't know that would help. I started exercising. I thought I was just destined to just get worse and worse and just, you know, whittle away to nothing.
Yep.
And I had way more power than that. Um, all of the things that overwhelm you throw you into a depression. Brent, I cried for 3 weeks straight. Like
I know.
I so I think what I would want people to know more than anything is you don't understand how much power you have. Being powerless is what got you here. You know, had you known like some of the things that you were doing yourself to get yourself a chronic disease, you probably would have stopped if you knew. Well, you know, you can still stop.
Yeah.
And I did. So a piece of bread has not entered this mouth in a very long time.
Love it. I love
Or
it.
pasta, sadly. Yeah.
I love it,
And
and
it's,
and it's just figuring it out, and you got to customize your journey, and that's what you have done, Maria. And you're an inspiration to me. I've been dealing with this disease for 28 years, but to know your path, to know you personally, I consider you a really close friend, and to know how you keep on fighting this disease, and the fact that you have a son that's going to be a neurologist, and you're still doing it your way. I just think that is just so awesome. I will have you on, whenever you want to come back on, Maria. I just love talking to you. And like I said, I want to get you and Steven on and just have a doctor and a mom conversation. And I just love everything about you and your whole family. It's just, you're an awesome family. You're an awesome warrior. And I love calling you a friend.
oh, Brian, you've meant the world to me. It's been nice to have somebody else, that I'm close to who has MS, who I don't have to, give you the 10,000-foot view. You already know.
Yeah, I love it.
So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Maria. All right, I am going to wrap it up for today. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can find me MS Michigan Man 64. You can also find me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64, and I'm on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Please share it out. Hit the subscribe button. We want to be understood. The best way to be understood is to listen to us talk. Until the next episode, this is the MS Michigan Man 64. I am out.